I want to share my story about how I discovered my wife was cheating on me and the subsequent events that turned my life upside down. My name is Mark, and I've been married to Lisa for 12 years. We have a daughter, Emily, who's 10. To the outside world, we looked like the perfect family. Lisa was the quintessential soccer mom, always involved in Emily's activities, while I worked hard to provide for us. But beneath that polished surface, things were starting to unravel. The first signs of trouble began a year ago. Lisa had always been the most affectionate partner, but suddenly her warmth seemed to dwindle. She'd come home late from running errands, or she'd make excuses to skip family dinners. I tried to brush it aside, telling myself she was just stressed from work or overwhelmed with organizing events for Emily's school. But deep down, I felt something was off. I remember one afternoon, I was picking up Emily from a playdate when I noticed Lisa's car parked outside the home of Chris, the dad of Emily's best friend. They were laughing, and it struck me as odd. They were way too chummy for just parents exchanging pleasantries. It made my gut twist, but I didn't think much of it at the time. Sometimes I'd see texts pop up on her phone when she left it unattended, mostly from Chris, but she'd always brush it off, saying it was just about the girls. Fast forward a few weeks, I found myself working late more often. I was exhausted and just wanted to unwind after a long day. One evening, I got home earlier than usual and noticed Lisa's phone on the kitchen counter. I hesitated, but my gut instinct pushed me to take a look. What I uncovered shattered me. A series of flirtatious texts between her and Chris, detailing how they couldn't wait to see each other again, and even some explicit conversations that made my skin crawl. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All those little signs that I had brushed off suddenly became crystal clear. The anger surged through me like a tidal wave. I confronted her that night, and to my disbelief, she tried to deny everything. "Mark, you're being paranoid," she said, her voice dripping with feigned innocence. "He's just a friend, nothing more." The way she said it felt so rehearsed, like it was a line she had practiced in her head, but I wasn't buying it. I pushed harder, demanding the truth. Finally, she cracked and admitted to the affair, insisting it was just a fling and that she still loved me. "It's not like it means anything," she exclaimed. I felt the heat of fury rising in my chest, overwhelming every other emotion. How could she even say something like that? The betrayal was immense. I went from anger to shock, then spiraled into sadness. The woman I loved had not only cheated on me but had shattered the foundation of our family. Memories of our life together flashed through my mind. Our wedding, Emily's birth, all the moments we had shared. I felt like I was losing a part of myself. How could she do this to us? The next few days were a mix of emotions. I was angry, broken, and confused. I started thinking about what to do next. I could either fight for my marriage or accept that it was over. But the thought of raising our daughter in a broken home kept gnawing at me. I needed to protect her. From this mess, and the more I thought about it, the clearer my decision became. I decided to take control of my life and my daughter's future. I would leave Lisa behind, not just for my sake, but for Emily's well-being. I started planning my next steps, gathering evidence and thinking about custody arrangements. It was time to take action and ensure that my daughter was safe from the chaos of her mother's choices. This whole experience changed me. I learned that sometimes, even the people closest to us can betray us in ways we never expect. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it requires a strength to rebuild. As I prepare to move forward, I hope others can learn from my experience. If something feels wrong in your relationship, trust those instincts. It could save you from a lot of heartache. After confronting Lisa, I was left reeling from the emotional fallout. The reality of what had happened settled in like a dark cloud, and everything felt heavy. I spent hours pacing around the house, trying to make sense of my feelings and the life I had built with her. It was tough. There were moments when I felt rage boiling inside me, and others when I just wanted to curl up and disappear. But I had to think about Emily. She was my priority now. In the days that followed, Lisa acted as if everything was normal. She made breakfast as if nothing had happened, smiled at Emily, and packed her lunch. But I could see through the facade. Every time she reached for my hand, I recoiled instinctively. It felt like a betrayal in itself. How could she act like nothing was wrong after what she'd done? I started to gather evidence for my custody plan. I knew I needed more than just her confession to ensure I could protect Emily from the instability Lisa's actions had caused. I began documenting everything: dates when Lisa was late, her excuses, the texts I had discovered. I even started talking to a lawyer who advised me on what I could do to establish my case for full custody. Each step felt like a small victory, a way to regain control in a situation where I felt utterly powerless. One evening, I decided to confront Lisa again. I needed her to understand the full weight of her actions. I waited until after dinner when Emily was upstairs getting ready for bed. I asked Lisa to sit down with me and I prepared myself for what I knew would be an intense conversation. "Lisa, we need to talk about what this means for us and for Emily." I started, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. She glanced up, her expression unreadable. "I told you it was a mistake, Mark. I love you and I want to make this work," she said, her words laden with desperation. "A mistake? You had sex with another man, Lisa. You broke our vows and shattered our family." The anger bubbled up again. "You act like this is just something we can sweep under the rug, but it's not, it's serious." She looked down, avoiding eye contact. "I was lonely. You were always working, Chris just. He listened to me. I thought I could handle it." "That's no excuse," I snapped. "You think I'm just going to forgive you because you claim to be lonely? You couldn't even tell me the truth until I forced it out of you." Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy, but then I remembered the betrayal, the lies, and the pain. "I can change, I swear," she pleaded, but I was done listening. I stood up and walked away, knowing that any hope for reconciliation was fading fast. I felt a mix of relief and anxiety as I realized I was taking a stand for myself and for Emily. I refused to let Lisa's infidelity drag us down any further. The next few days were a blur. I started packing up my belongings. I didn't want to live in a house filled with reminders of the betrayal. Every corner of the place felt tainted by her lies. I found myself leaning heavily on friends for support, sharing my story with them, even as I felt embarrassed and ashamed. Some of them were shocked, others supportive, but all of them encouraged me to do what was right for myself and my daughter. I found comfort in their advice and companionship, which helped ease the isolation that had crept in since discovering Lisa's betrayal. As I continued to gather evidence and seek legal counsel, I felt a strange mix of empowerment and sorrow. I was moving forward, but the heaviness of heartbreak lingered. I focused on my daughter, making it a priority to be present for her despite everything. I took her to the park, played board games, and helped her with her homework. I wanted to give her some normalcy amidst the chaos, but I also knew that I had to prepare for the inevitable confrontation with Chris. If Lisa thought she could continue the affair without any consequences, she was mistaken. I needed to make it clear that I wouldn't let anyone jeopardize my daughter's happiness, and I was ready to protect her at all costs. That confrontation loomed over me like a storm cloud. I wasn't just fighting for my marriage, I was fighting for Emily's future. I had to be strategic. I needed to gather my thoughts and prepare myself for the next step. As I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, the weight of the situation pressed down on me. I replayed every moment of my relationship with Lisa, questioning everything: her words, her actions, my own choices. But I knew I had to find a way to move forward. I couldn't let this betrayal define me, or the life I wanted for Emily. The road ahead would be difficult, but I was determined to take back control of our lives. The moment of truth was coming, and I would be ready. As I continued to process everything, it became increasingly clear that I needed to confront Chris. I couldn't let him think he could just waltz into my life and disrupt everything without facing the consequences. I had already been through so much, and I refused to let anyone else play a part in tearing apart my family. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. This guy, Chris, was supposed to be a father, a role model for our kids. Instead, he was seducing my wife, and that made my blood boil. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, contemplating how best to approach this confrontation. I wanted to make sure my point came across loud and clear without becoming unreasonable. After a few days of gathering my thoughts, I decided it was time to act. Armed with screenshots of texts and evidence of their affair, I made my way over to Chris's house. My heart raced as I drove, a combination of rage and anxiety surged through me. What would I say? How would he react? I had envisioned this moment countless times, and now that it was finally here, I felt a whirlwind of emotions. As I pulled up to his driveway, I took a deep breath to steady myself. I knocked on the door, and within moments, Chris answered. His expression shifted from confusion to surprise as he recognized me. "Mark, what are you doing here? We need to talk," I said, my voice firm. He hesitated for a moment but then stepped aside to let me in. The interior of his home was a typical suburban setup, family photos on the walls, a cozy living room filled with toys. It sickened me to think of how he could betray not only our marriage but also the trust of our families. "Have a seat," he said, gesturing toward the couch. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, then began. "Do you think this is just a game?" I asked, not bothering with small talk. "You're sleeping with my wife, for God's sake. Don't you have any respect for your own family?" He shifted uncomfortably, the color draining from his face. "I didn't mean for it to escalate. We were just having fun. It didn't mean anything." "Fun?" I scoffed. "You've got to be kidding me. You're a father. You should know better than to disrespect another man's marriage. You've crossed lines that you can't just brush off as fun." Chris stammered, trying to formulate a defense, but I wasn't interested in hearing his excuses. I pulled out my phone and showed him the messages I had saved. "Look at this," I said, my voice rising with pent-up anger. "You think this is okay, that you can text her like this while pretending to be a father to your own kids?" He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting from disbelief to guilt. "I thought she was unhappy," he mumbled. "I didn't mean for it to turn into this." "Unhappy?" I echoed, incredulous. "What gave you the right to interfere in our marriage? You don't know anything about our life together." "You've taken advantage of her vulnerability." Chris tried to protest, but I could see the realization washing over him. He was starting to understand the gravity of what he had done. "I'm sorry, man, I messed up. I never wanted to hurt anyone." "Too late for that," I snapped. "You've already hurt us both. I want you to leave my family alone. No more texting Lisa, no more hanging out. This has to stop. If I find out you're still in contact, I won't hesitate to take further action." I stood there, feeling the weight of my words hanging in the air. Chris nodded, his face pale. "I get it. I'll end it, I promise." With that, I turned on my heel and left his house, the tension in my chest easing slightly. I had confronted him, and for the first time in a while I felt empowered. I had taken a stand, not just for myself but for Emily. I knew I had to protect her from this situation, and I was taking steps to ensure it wouldn't happen again. Returning home, I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me, but also a sense of relief. I had done what needed to be done, and now it was time to focus on the next steps in my journey. Lisa was still a part of my life, and I had to figure out how to navigate that moving forward. In the days that followed, I noticed a shift in Lisa's behavior. She seemed to be more subdued, almost remorseful. I wasn't ready to let my guard down, but I could tell that the confrontation with Chris had impacted her. She often asked how I was feeling, trying to engage in conversations about our marriage. It was confusing. I wasn't sure if she was genuinely sorry or if this was just another tactic to win me back. I had to tread carefully. I wanted to protect Emily, but I also had to be realistic about what our marriage had become. The foundation we had built was cracked, and I wasn't sure if we could ever fully repair it. I started attending therapy. I figured it would help me process my feelings and give me clarity on how to move forward. The therapist encouraged me to express my emotions fully and not shy away from the pain I was feeling. It was a cathartic experience, and I learned things about myself that I hadn't fully grasped before. As Lisa continued to seek my forgiveness, I found myself torn. There were moments when I wanted to believe that we could salvage what was left of our relationship, but then the memories of her betrayal would flood back, and I would pull away. I needed to keep my focus on Emily, but the question of whether to fight for my marriage or move on loomed over me like an unresolved puzzle. For now, I decided to take things one day at a time. I was determined to prioritize my daughter's happiness, and as I navigated the complexities of my relationship with Lisa, I would look for clarity. Whatever the outcome, I knew I had to protect my family from further harm. The fight was far from over, but I was ready for whatever lay ahead. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. My interactions with Lisa were strained yet oddly hopeful at times. She seemed genuinely remorseful after my confrontation with Chris, but I still felt a nagging doubt about whether she could truly change. Therapy sessions were helping me sort through my feelings, but the road to healing was anything but straightforward. One evening, after Emily had gone to bed, I found myself sitting across from Lisa in the dimly lit living room. She had been trying hard to reconnect with me, making gestures like cooking my favorite meals and even suggesting we watch movies together. I appreciated the effort, but my heart was still heavy with the betrayal. I couldn't forget what had happened, nor could I shake the feeling that I was treading on thin ice. "Mark, I know I messed up. I've been thinking a lot about everything," she began hesitantly, her voice full of emotion. "I want to make it right, I love you, and I want to fix this." I looked at her, searching for sincerity in her eyes. "Do you really, Lisa? Because it didn't seem like love when you were sneaking around with Chris. You broke our vows and put this family at risk." Tears welled up in her eyes, and I felt a pang of compassion mixed with anger. "I know," she replied, her voice shaky. "I can't take it back, but I want to try and show you that I can be better. I've started seeing a therapist too. I want to understand why I did what I did." That surprised me. It was a step in the right direction, but I still didn't know if it was enough. "I appreciate that, but it takes more than just words to fix this. Trust is built over time, and you shattered mine," I said, my voice firm yet measured. She nodded, biting her lip as she processed my words. "I understand. Just give me a chance to prove that I can change. I want to be the wife you deserve and the mother Emily deserves." I wanted to believe her. I really did, but the hurt was still too fresh. I was stuck in this limbo where I had to decide whether to fight for our marriage or to cut my losses and focus solely on Emily. The next few days were turbulent. I had decided to put some boundaries in place, especially regarding communication with Chris. I needed to know that Lisa understood the seriousness of her actions. I texted her one afternoon while I was at work. "I want you to tell Chris that this is over. No more contact. If you really want to fix this, you need to cut off all ties." Her response was swift. "I will, I promise. I just need to figure out how to do it without drama." He's been persistent. I felt a mix of relief and skepticism. While I wanted to trust her, I had been burned before. I decided to give her space to handle it, but I also planned to check in with her later that week to see how things were progressing. A few days later, I came home from work to find Lisa sitting on the couch, visibly shaken. "Mark, I need to talk to you," she said, and my heart sank. "Is everything okay?" I asked, my anxiety spiking. "I talked to Chris," she said, her voice trembling. "He didn't take it well. He accused me of leading him on and said he wouldn't just let me go that easily." "Did you tell him it's over?" I pressed, trying to remain calm. "Yes, but he said he's not going to give up without a fight. He wants to see me to talk things through." I felt anger flaring up inside me. "What does he think this is? A game?" "No, Lisa, this needs to end. You can't let him manipulate you like this." I know, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings," she said, her voice anxious. "Hurt his feelings?" I shot back. "What about my feelings? What about Emily? You need to understand that this isn't just about him. It's about protecting our family. You need to stand firm." Tears flowed down her cheeks as she nodded. "You're right. I'm sorry. I'll handle it. I promise I will." That night I felt a mixture of frustration and concern. I wanted to support her, but I needed her to take this seriously. A few days later I followed up with her. "Did you talk to him again?" "Yes, I did. I told him I wanted things to be over. He tried to convince me to meet up one last time, but I said no." I felt a sense of relief wash over me, but I also knew the battle wasn't over. "Good. Just make sure he understands that this is final. No more second chances for him or you." Months passed where we tried to rebuild our relationship, one day at a time. Lisa was making an effort, and for the first time I felt a glimmer of hope. We started attending couples therapy together, where we tackled communication issues and explored the deeper reasons behind her actions. But the deeper I dug, the more complex the situation became. Lisa's motivations for the affair were rooted in feelings of inadequacy and loneliness. I learned that she often felt overwhelmed by the responsibilities of motherhood and her role as a wife. It made sense, but it also made my heart ache for her. While I was working through my own pain, I found myself empathizing with her struggles. I wanted to help her heal, but I still felt the sting of betrayal deep within me. One day during a therapy session, Lisa broke down in tears, expressing her fears about how her actions were impacting Emily. "I don't want to lose her, Mark. She's everything to me. I never wanted to hurt her by hurting you." That hit me hard. I had often thought about my own pain but hadn't fully grasped how this was affecting our daughter. It was a wake-up call. If we were going to move forward as a family, we needed to be united in our commitment to heal together. As we continued to navigate this treacherous path, I began to realize that healing would take time. It wasn't going to be easy, but I was willing to put in the effort. I wanted to create a safe environment for Emily, and that meant working on the relationship with Lisa, even if it felt daunting at times. And so, we pressed on, facing the complexities of our situation together, with hope for the future hanging delicately in the balance. But at the back of my mind, I knew that the journey ahead would require immense strength and vulnerability from both of us if we ever hoped to emerge whole again. As we continued our journey through therapy, I found myself becoming more introspective. I realized that healing wasn't just about fixing what was broken. It was about rediscovering who we were as individuals and as a couple. Lisa and I had lost sight of our connection amid the chaos, and I wanted to reclaim it, even if it felt like an uphill battle. On a particularly sunny Saturday, I decided to take Emily to the park. It was a beautiful day, and I wanted to create some positive memories for her. As we played on the swings, I found myself smiling again, albeit cautiously. Emily was laughing and running around with her friends, her innocence a stark reminder of what was truly at stake. Later that afternoon, I returned home feeling rejuvenated. Lisa was in the kitchen, preparing dinner, and I noticed she had put effort into creating a special meal. The aroma wafted through the house, and for the first time in a long while I felt a flicker of warmth toward her. "Hey, it smells amazing in here," I said, trying to lighten the mood. "Thanks, I thought we could have a family dinner tonight," she replied, her eyes lighting up. "I want us to reconnect as a family." That sentiment resonated with me. I was grateful that she was making an effort, and while it didn't erase what had happened, it felt like a step in the right direction. We sat down to eat, and as the three of us shared stories and laughter, I felt a sense of normalcy returning, albeit tentatively. As we finished dinner, I noticed Lisa looking at me, a mix of hope and apprehension in her gaze. "Mark, I've been thinking maybe we should plan a family outing next weekend, just us three. I want to show you both how much you mean to me." I hesitated for a moment. Part of me wanted to agree wholeheartedly, but I also felt a pang of uncertainty. "What do you have in mind?" I asked cautiously. "Maybe a trip to the zoo or a picnic in the park, something fun and relaxing," she suggested. It sounded innocent enough, and I could see the excitement in her eyes. "Sure, that sounds great," I replied, trying to keep my tone upbeat. As the week progressed, I found myself looking forward to the outing. I wanted to believe that we could create new memories and maybe start to heal as a family. But deep down, I knew the journey was still fraught with challenges. On the day of our outing, we packed a picnic basket and made our way to the park. The sun shone brightly, and the sounds of laughter filled the air. We set up our blanket beneath a large tree and prepared for the day ahead. Emily was ecstatic, and seeing her joy warmed my heart. As we ate and chatted, I couldn't help but notice Lisa's efforts to engage with both Emily and me. She was animated, laughing at Emily's jokes and sharing stories that felt genuine. It felt good, but I remained cautious. I still had my guard up, afraid of being blindsided by another betrayal. After lunch, we decided to take a walk around the park. As we strolled, I could see other families enjoying their time together, and it struck me how fragile family dynamics could be. I wanted to protect this moment, this chance to build something new, to forge a path forward. But as we walked, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw a message from an unknown number. My heart sank as I read the words, "I miss you. We need to talk." It was from Chris. My stomach twisted into knots. Here I was, trying to rebuild my family, and I was being confronted with the ghost of my past. I didn't want to ruin the day, but I also felt a surge of anger. "Mark, are you okay?" I heard Lisa's voice break through my thoughts. I looked up to see her concern etched on her face. "Yeah, I'm fine, just got a message," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. But as we continued to walk, my mind raced. I had to confront this. I couldn't allow Chris to disrupt our fragile progress. The message felt like an intrusion, a reminder of everything I was fighting against. That night after we returned home and put Emily to bed, I took a deep breath and decided to text Chris back. "There's nothing to talk about. Stay away from my family." I felt a rush of adrenaline as I hit send. It was a bold move, but I knew I had to draw a line in the sand. I wouldn't allow his presence to linger over us any longer. The next few days were tense. I could feel the weight of Chris's message hanging over my head like a storm cloud. Lisa seemed to sense the shift in my mood, but I didn't want to burden her with my worries. I was trying to focus on rebuilding, and I didn't want to drag her down again. However, it became increasingly clear that the threat of Chris wasn't going to vanish quietly. I received another message from him a couple of days later, this time more desperate. "I'm not going to give up on Lisa, Mark. You can't keep her from me. She wants to see me." That was it. I felt a surge of protectiveness blend with fury. I couldn't let him dictate the terms of our lives. I knew I had to take decisive action. I decided to contact my lawyer and see if there were legal avenues to explore. I wanted to ensure Chris understood that any further contact with Lisa could have serious repercussions. When I brought the idea up to Lisa, she was taken aback. "Mark, what are you saying? Do you really want to involve lawyers? I thought we were trying to move forward." "I am moving forward," I replied, trying to remain calm. "But I can't have him lurking around, messing with our lives. I need to protect our family. This is about Emily. It's about safeguarding our future." Lisa sighed, running her fingers through her hair. "I understand, but I don't want to escalate things. I just want us to heal together. We can heal, but I won't allow him to sabotage our efforts. I need you to understand that," I said, my voice steady but firm. The tension hung in the air, but I could see she understood my resolve. We were navigating uncharted waters, and while I didn't want to escalate the conflict, I needed to stand my ground. As the week wore on, I felt the weight of my decision settle over me. I was determined to protect my family, no matter what it took. I wanted to build a safe, stable environment for Emily, and that meant confronting the threats that lingered. Whatever lay ahead, I was ready to face it head-on. I had already come so far, and I wasn't about to let anyone take that away from me again. The fight for our family's future was just beginning, and I was prepared to do whatever it took to secure it. The weeks that followed were a roller coaster of emotions. I had made the decision to consult my lawyer, and it felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I wanted to ensure that Chris understood the seriousness of the situation and that any further contact with Lisa would not be tolerated. I began to prepare for the possibility of a legal battle, knowing that I had to stand firm for the sake of my family. The day finally came to meet with my lawyer. As we sat in her office, I laid out the details about Lisa's affair and Chris's relentless messaging. My lawyer listened carefully and went over the potential legal ramifications of involving him. "If you feel threatened or that your family is at risk, we can file a restraining order," she explained. "It's not uncommon in situations like this." Hearing that brought a mix of relief and dread. I wanted to protect my family, but the idea of escalating the situation was daunting. Nonetheless, I knew I had to do something. I couldn't allow Chris to continue to disrupt our lives, and I would do whatever it took to safeguard Emily's future. That evening, I decided to share my thoughts with Lisa. I found her in the kitchen preparing dinner. "I met with my lawyer," I said, choosing my words carefully. Her brow furrowed in concern. "What did she say?" "I'm considering filing a restraining order against Chris if he keeps contacting you," I replied. Lisa's eyes widened. Mark, I don't want things to escalate like that. I thought we were trying to heal together. We are healing, but that doesn't mean I'll let him undermine our efforts. I need to protect our family, Lisa. This is about Emily's well-being, I said, trying to keep my tone calm but firm. After a moment, she nodded slowly, understanding the seriousness of the situation. I get it, I don't want things to get messy. Neither do I reassured her. But Chris won't just back off without consequences. He's already proven he doesn't respect our boundaries. Over the next few days, I kept a close eye on my phone, waiting for any further messages from Chris. I knew the moment I received another one, I would be ready to act. I wanted to show him that I wouldn't let him bully me or my family. Then, late one night, it happened. I received a message from Chris, but this time it was different. I want to see Lisa. You can't keep her. From me, she's unhappy with you. My blood boiled as I read those words. How dare he? I felt a surge of anger mixed with determination. This was the moment I had been anticipating. I took a deep breath and typed back, "Leave her alone. You're not welcome in our lives anymore. If you contact her again, I will take legal action." I hit send and felt a rush of empowerment. I was taking control of the narrative for the first time in a long while. I refused to let Chris dictate the terms of my family's future. The next morning, I decided it was time to take the next step. I called my lawyer and explained the situation. "I want to move forward with filing the restraining order," I said, my voice resolute. She guided me through the process, and within days, I had taken the necessary steps to ensure that Chris was legally barred from contacting Lisa or coming near our home. When I informed Lisa of what I had done, she initially looked shocked. "Are you sure this is the right move?" she asked, concern etched on her face. "I'm sure," I lied, holding her gaze. "We have to put our family first. I won't let him hurt you or Emily anymore." As the dust settled, I felt an unexpected sense of calm wash over me. I had made a tough decision, but I knew it was for the best. Lisa and I began to work together more closely, navigating the complexities of co-parenting and rebuilding our relationship. Days turned into weeks, and Emily seemed to thrive in the new environment. Lisa and I began to communicate more openly. We ventured into more family outings, each one helping to mend the cracks that had formed in our foundation. With each shared laugh and joyful moment, hope began to blossom in the cracks of our lives. One afternoon, while helping Emily with her homework, I caught a glimpse of the future I had always envisioned for us. I smiled at Lisa, who was sitting across the table, and for the first time in a long while, I felt warmth radiating between us. "Thank you for being there for Emily," I said softly, sensing the shift in our dynamic. She smiled back, relief and gratitude evident in her eyes. "I'm grateful for you too, Mark. I know we've had our struggles, but I want to keep working on this." As spring blossomed, so did our family. The journey was far from over, but I knew we were on the right path. I had learned that love is not just about trust. It's also about resilience, forgiveness, and the courage to face the storm together. I also realized that healing takes time, and it requires effort from both partners. I had grown stronger through this experience, and as we moved forward, I felt more equipped to handle whatever challenges lay ahead. In our hearts, we both understood that we were in this together, navigating the complexities of love and family. I had fought for my family, and now, more than ever, I was determined to cherish and protect what we had rebuilt. Our journey was just beginning, and I felt ready to take on the world, hand in hand with my family.